Welcome to the Power Exit Podcast. This show is dedicated to business owners who want to scale up, plan smarter, and prepare for the ultimate exit. We'll talk with M&A experts and owners who've been through the process to provide actionable advice so that you can sell your business on your terms and without regret. I'm John Marsh. Join me as we prepare to take control of your exit. All right, welcome to the next episode of the Power Exit Podcast. I'm thrilled. I like these episodes where we have a former client and friend join us on the podcast. So I want to introduce everyone to Ralph Cimperman. Ralph, thank you for being here. For those who aren't familiar, tell us a little bit about you and your background and what your company, Marathon HR, did and what kind of clients you served.
Sure. Thanks a lot, John. I really appreciate having the opportunity to join your podcast, and actually, it's been it's been great to be able to reflect a little bit about the process and about the building of Marathon HR. I, as you know, it's so Marathon HR is a human resource outsourcing company. What we would do is we'd process payroll, manage benefits, help small to medium-sized businesses with HR compliance and workers' compensation, insurance, as well as management of insurance policies.
Yep.
So small to medium-sized businesses, everybody's got a different definition. Really, the meat and potatoes of the market is 5 to 30-ish employees. We had many that were smaller than that, and we did have quite a few that were larger than the 50. But in terms of where the greatest value typically is, it's in that mid-size where you're big enough to have HR issues, but not big enough to have somebody with expertise on staff.
Yeah, wonderful.
And we did those things is in two different methods. One was as a third party. We also were what's known as an employee leasing company or a PEO. That's a professional employer organization. So we did use both models with our clients. We had a couple hundred clients in largely in Georgia, but the other surrounding states, some of the other surrounding states also.
Yeah.
So in terms of background, I had a similar business with a couple of partners prior to doing this. We sold that business in 2004, but I liked the industry so much that in that interim time, I thought, if I'm going to do something else like this, I got to do it right away. And that's how and when I started Marathon.
You're one of the few business owners who've had multiple exits. So congrats to you on that. A lot of times we say that this is a one-time thing, but you have the benefit of a previous exit. So I'd love to hear, as we chat about that. But before we do that, I just wanted to tell the audience how interesting our relationship is, and that I was the CFO at a spinal device company. Marathon HR did the PEO, payroll, HR, outsourced HR for us there. So we've known each other for many years, and we reconnected after I started Marsh Creek and helping business owners sell their businesses. So,
All right. Yeah. So in depth what kind of the work that we do and the support that we provide.
Yep, wonderful, and it's a valuable service, and we'll talk about this too. It was extremely marketable. We were able to build we'll save that for later. But back to Marathon. How did you know that it was time for you to sell, and what led you to start seriously thinking about an exit?
And so Marathon got started in 2004. And when I started the business, it was with the intention or the understanding. I know at some point, because I had sold a previous business, I knew this is how the business is going to end. Finding the right time, it may have come, the seed of the kernel of that was in 2018, actually. And one of my neighbors had started working for a PEO, and I saw him on a Saturday morning, and he asked me if I knew what a PEO was.
Yeah.
And I said, well, apparently I've done an awful job of telling you what I do for a living. And he said, well, the company I'm working for, they're doing acquisitions if you're interested in selling. And I said, well, I'm not really interested in selling, but if you give me $1 million for my house, I'll be out by Friday. So that Price is Right. Anyway, we had the conversation, and quickly figured out while the deals they were looking at, it became evident it wasn't going to happen at that time. But it did give me that thought that, I need to start thinking about that, you know, there's I've got more yesterdays than I've got tomorrows in this business and need to start getting my ducks in a row.
Yeah.
My wife retired the year after that, and that was another thing that added on to it. And then in 2020, we had the pandemic and all the demands on your HR department for things like PPP loan um, assistance or employee retention tax credit assistance, really, uh, and dealing with the HR issues related to so and so's got a COVID, CDC's changing the requirements or recommendations.
Yeah.
It was just, I was thinking, I wish I had sold in 2018.
Amen. Yeah, that was a challenging time for a lot of business owners, many, but even more so for you, because folks were maybe looking to you for answers. And us, nobody had answers. So interesting.
Yeah, and I think around that time too, we bumped into each other again, and you were, and we had talked about you were looking at staffing businesses that were, they were very marketable at the time, and since that's kind of a related industry to me, we had bumped into each other again, and I think that kind of led us on to well, maybe we should take a look at see what the company's worth.
Yeah. Yes, we did that valuation for you, and um, you know, so I do want to go back to something, and I apologize. This wasn't one of the pre questions that I floated over to you, so I'm going to throw you for a loop here.
No problem.
But you had your next door neighbor who was interested in buying the business. The time wasn't right then. Why was it important for you to hire someone like me rather than just go directly to the bird in the hand, if you will?
Uh, well, I think the most important thing is it's like selling a house. Yes, you can sell it on your own, but I think in terms of maximizing the value and really understanding what the business is worth. Now I had sold a business, similar business, but having that buffer in between to be able to do the negotiating invaluable.
Yeah, and it's something that I candidly combat a lot. A lot of buyers or owners say, "Hey, I already have a buyer," but what they don't realize is that our process is going to more than pay for our fee, and it's going to allow you to put your head down on the pillow at night, knowing you didn't leave anything on the table. It's sort of market speak. So, thanks for answering. Colin.
Yeah, and then also in terms of preparation, I mean, you having gone through this a number of times, and initially when I first had those conversations, I wasn't prepared.
Yeah,
I wasn't close to being prepared. So being able to when we did finally start having conversations about that, and I knew some of the things I needed to do, but you were invaluable in terms of here's how you really need to prepare in order to get greatest value, and it actually made the rest of the process much easier.
yeah. Well, good. Well, I'm glad to hear that, of course. But we'll talk a little bit more about the lessons learned because I think that's valuable. But what was the most important thing to you when you were embarking on the sale process? Was it maximizing value, protecting your team, finding the right cultural fit, combination of all of those? What was really on your checklist or bucket list?
Yeah, and actually, I think all of those were important,
Yeah.
but it's more like it's a 1A and a 1B in terms of importance. This business is not uh, it's one where it's a cumulative value. We would pick up clients, and we had clients. Our first 10 clients, 5 of them were still clients of ours 19 years later. Instead of dealing with the business owner, we're dealing with their sons or their daughters running the business. So you make a little bit of money over a long period of time. To me, that was how you get to really be successful in this business.
Yeah.
Really, from an ownership perspective, maximizing value. That's kind of what I was working for. It wasn't what I was able to earn along the way. Was really being able to maximize the value in the end.
Yeah.
But as we were looking at buyers, I really felt like we had an excellent fit with the people who eventually bought the business.
Yeah,
Great group of people, every person I met, wonderful people.
that's great.
And with my staff, I actually went through kind of person by person, thinking, what would this mean to that person, and how would they fit into the new organization, and is that a win for them too? And I felt like it was a good fit, and I felt like it would be, or at least it may not be a win, but it had the opportunity of being a win for each of my employees.
Yeah. And kudos to you for thinking about that. Obviously, Venture is a large private equity backed company. They seem to have a very well-oiled plan when it came to integrating businesses like yours. But how long did you stick around post-closing?
Uh, a year,
Yeah.
I had a year commitment, but I still helped out to the extent that I could. Still refer businesses. People will call me. I get a phone call. Mutual friend calls me. Hey, you know, I'm I'm starting up a new business and need some help. And I said, well, here, call. Here's a person you can call over Adventure. Did a nice job. They'll take good care of you.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. Um, so, Ralph, you obviously had the benefit of going through a previous transaction, right? How was the structure of that deal, and what lessons did you learn from that specific deal? Obviously, you said you weren't an expert. You still had to hire someone to help you through the process. But what did you learn there in that previous transaction in the early 2000s that helped you prepare for the second go around?
One was the going through due diligence was I wasn't surprised at um, I wasn't surprised at the level of effort that was going to be required, and it's a full time job pretty much on top of your regular full time job of running the business. So that was part of it, and I think the second part was about I think when um, the one of the things that I walked away from that with was once you give up control of the business,
Yeah.
it's you're giving up control of the business. It's their business to run, and you want to make sure that that goes well because you've invested in your employees, you have relationships with your clients, and you want that to be as successful as it can be.
Right.
And especially if there's some kind of an earnout in the business where some of it, some of the payout from the sale is contingent upon performance.
Yeah.
And from the buyer's, if you put yourself in the buyer's position, you want to buy a business. You look at all the numbers. It looks like it's healthy, but they want to make sure that they get continued value from it
Yeah.
also.
Yeah. Earnouts are buyer mitigation techniques. It's how they mitigate some of their risk that the business will continue to perform.
Yeah, and
Uh,
then from that perspective, with the initial sale, we didn't have there was no real uh, continued employment requirement. So there wasn't in that sale, I stuck around for about 5 or 6 months and was really vested in making sure that it was successful. But, after the 5 or 6 months, they felt like they could handle things. And to be honest, that sale just did not, it was not as successful as the current one.
mm, yeah. So every deal has surprises. What were some of the biggest challenges or pain points that you faced during the sale process, the entire process, from marketing to closing?
The rigor of due diligence, which
Yeah.
uh, with the sale of my business in 2004 was, while it was rigorous, it was not as rigorous as the sale of Marathon. And I think having a very rigorous due diligence period is great. Um, it provides Um, it actually made me feel good in that when questions were asked, I knew the answers to them because I was well prepared. And I think some of that comes from you preparing me, but I was able to address all the issues. And in going through that, I felt like we really had a well-run business here and was proud of that. And the advantage of the rigorous due diligence period on the buyer side too is they can feel secure in knowing, yeah, we're really getting a good company. Um,
Well, if I could just focus on that for a moment, you were very prepared. You had the house was in order. You knew where everything was, you knew where to find it, but it was still tedious. Getting through diligence is tedious. And I try to counsel clients to buckle up, get ready, because it's a lot of work. And the more work you can do now in advance, the better off you'll be. So I just want to beat that drum. I want people to understand that it is important to just go into this eyes wide open, knowing that the diligence process, whether it's legal, financial, operational, environmental, it's a lot and it takes a lot of time. It's like a full-time job for a couple months. So just I just like to educate folks on that aspect of it.
sure. And having all your process, it's to be honest, it's all about running a good business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're running a good business, if you've got good processes identified for here's how we do our work, here's what our sales process looks like, the outcome being a sales agreement that
Yeah.
you have them all available and easily accessible. If you if you do have those things in place, if you don't have those in place, you're going to be a better company by getting those things in place, and the company's going to be more valuable.
Well, and you did a really good job of already having the team built. A lot of folks come to me and they need introductions to M&A attorneys. I'm happy to provide those, and we know a lot of good ones. But you already had your attorney. You already had your M&A attorney. You had your business coach who'd been with you for many years, who was a part of this process. And I admire that because it is so important to get it right. And you were diligent about bringing the right folks to the table who had your best interest.
Yeah, or and actually, in terms of having the uh, I think for a while, was probably a bit arrogant in terms of, "Hey, I've got a great background. I'm a smart guy. I've run a business like this before. I don't really need that much help, and I don't need that much help." But you mentioned hiring a business coach. One of the best things one of the best things I could have done in terms of preparing the business for sale. I had that relationship for like 2.5, 3 years prior to the sale of the business, but definitely an invaluable person to help me get to where I needed to be.
Well, all coaches, all M&A advisors, they're all not built the same, and you had a darn good one. I'd encourage anybody who's listening, who's interested in an introduction, to reach out to me or Ralph, and we'll make that introduction because he was impressive. Um, was there so obviously we have the benefit of hindsight. When did the sale of Marathon take place?
December of 23.
Okay. So it's been almost 2 years now. Is there anything you wish you would have done earlier to better prepare for the diligence or the process, marketing the business? Is there anything you wish you could have done?
Um, Actually, I think I'm. I think I did I think I did everything that I could.
That's great.
One of the things that's a little bit of a disappointment is I think my employees who ended up sticking around and staying with the new company have done very well and
Good.
very and like I said, great people at the buyers venture people, great people, very professional, very skilled, genuinely nice people. And I think my employees who have stayed on are doing very well. I I'm a little disappointed that not more chose to stay,
Yeah.
but mostly they decided that it wasn't for them. And that's the one thing that I can't, you can't know what's inside somebody's head. And you, as a business owner, you can't let people know about that in advance.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Um, Was there any, so in terms of a preparation, maybe, being better prepared for that transition and potentially doing some things that, if people would stay for a year, maybe provide some financial incentive for people to stay for a year, and then after a period of time, they fully get indoctrinated or naturalized into the new company.
Yeah, yeah. Was
That might have been one thing. Uh, but really outside of that, everything went, still could not have gone smoother.
That's wonderful.
Very, very good process, and very happy with how things went.
So tell us what Life 2.0 looks like for you. We talk about, you've got Life 2.0 and, we don't want our clients to be running away from something. We want them to be running to something. And you were a great example of that. You're down in sunny Florida now. You told me before we started recording that it's nice and balmy down there. I wish we could have some of that here in Atlanta today. But how did you emotionally prepare for the process of stepping away from a business that you built from the ground up? And was it harder, easier than you expected?
I think, looking back on the things that I really enjoyed, I really like my employees. I liked going to the office. During COVID, our offices were open full time. We never closed our offices, but really enjoyed the people that I worked with, our clients, the personal relationships with the clients, and being able to, we were problem solvers. We helped people when they had issues, in addition to just doing some block and tackle working for them. But they would call us with an issue, and I feel like we were able to help them out with challenging things that they didn't know how to handle. So I miss that. That's a, there's a lot of satisfaction that comes from helping people out.
Yeah.
The networking, our business networking groups, developed a lot of relationships through those so there's, I miss those weekly or biweekly meetings and the people through those groups. Some of whom I still see, my financial advisor, my chiropractor, there's a number of people that I still see on a regular basis. But I do miss that.
Yeah.
Um, there's some of that, but I've substituted. It's 80 degrees here. My wife and I are going to go out and play golf this afternoon. I did play golf yesterday. I played golf the day before that. I did play golf the day before that too.
Wow. Wonderful.
So, and get into doing some boating, some fishing, and uh, whether or not to get back into doing something else, I don't know. But I've also gotten to the age where, I'm not sure that I want another challenge, at least not another full time challenge.
Yeah. Understood. Understood. Um, what, so what is the one piece of advice? I know it's hard because you've dropped a lot of nuggets here, but what's the one piece of advice you'd give to a business owner who's thinking about selling in the next 1 to 3 years?
Well, that's the time frame. 1 year. I hope you got your ducks in a row now. If it's 3 years, that's a good timeline. A 3 to 5 year timeline, and just get those uh, processes documented, and you need to develop the key relationships. I felt really fortunate and blessed that I had legal legal relationships, good relationship. My accountant I've had for 20 years, and our relationship, having somebody like and trust that can help take you through the process.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing is don't be so arrogant that you think you know how to do everything.
Well, and that's what I want. You've dropped a lot of really important things that are not to be overlooked. But the biggest aspect of this is just preparation, being prepared. Folks come to me often and say, "Hey, I'm ready to sell. Call me next year. I'll be ready to sell." They're not baking in the 9 to 12 months it takes to sell a business, and then the transition period afterwards. No buyer's going to pay you millions of dollars and let you just walk away to the sunset. They're going to they're going to want you to help transition that business, and especially if there's something like an earnout present in the deal, it's really important that you build that into your timeline.
Yeah, and I talked to some of my clients. That's, Mike. Given that we were my clients were these small to medium-sized businesses. It's not unusual. We'd have a couple of clients sell their business every year, and sometimes it's, "Oh, I got a 5-year earnout." Okay, well, if you're planning on retiring at 65 or at 60, you need to budget in 5 years of earnout or 3 years of earnout, and
They didn't have an M&A advisor to help them through that one. 5 years is a long time.
5 years is a long time. But if you enjoy what you're doing and, if it I don't know, there are situations where that can be a good deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And, one of the things that we hear a lot of is that private equity is evil. Large corporations are evil. Your experience was very positive
Mhm.
uh, with the acquirer. Tell me a little bit about that mindset shift. You've owned your business for many years. You've been the guy making decisions, but now you have a new boss for a 12-month period. How was that transition for you? Was that something you had to kind of get used to?
No, actually, it was, what I would describe to our clients that are, I really felt like uh, the the buyer for Marathon was very much like Marathon
Yeah.
in terms of culture, in terms of how they did things. They were just a whole lot bigger, and as a result, I mean, they were kind of the company I would have liked to have grown Marathon into, uh, but you start running out of time, and so from that perspective, and you know, they had different and better what I felt like was better technology.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about that at all, but I think that was another factor leading to the transition is the technological changes in payroll processing and HR management. We had the cost of transitioning us from the software we were on to a new software would have been hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
And I think using that as a uh, uh, because I think it was because of the buyer, because of the company and the people we were selling to, the relationship was they valued my input. I was the expert on Marathon HR, and they took advantage of the input that I was able to provide.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd forgotten about that. That was an important consideration for you was how are you leaving your clients? Are you leaving your clients in good hands? And
And and
technology.
we were goal aligned. They were interested in, the buyer wants to keep the clients. I want them to keep the clients. I want clients to be happy too. So, let's do what we need to do to help keep people happy.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So everything within reason.
Sure. Sure. I mean, it's not without challenges, right? There's always things to work through. But like you said, if you're goal aligned, that makes a huge difference. Makes all the difference in the world.
True.
So, Ralph, how important was it for you to have the right advisors around you? And what should other owners think about when choosing theirs?
Well, I think the important thing is having a strong relationship and having those relationships in advance.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be in the position where, gee, I think I want to sell my business this year. Let me go to the yellow pages and find an attorney.
Yeah.
So, for the assistance with on the legal side, accounting side, from the M&A side, business brokerage, business coaching, all of those people that I had on my team helping me were people that I had long-term relationships with.
Yeah.
So, when I go to, "Hey, Byron, I'm thinking about selling my business. Can you help support me in this?" It's like he already knows all about my business.
Yeah.
And you and I, we've known each other for 15 years. My business coach, I had known Jeff for 10, 12 years.
Wow.
My accountant I'd had for 20 years.
Yeah.
So it was
It's powerful.
it's just having those relationships and thinking about it, just making sure you're ready when the time. And I'm a planner. I'm thinking, not just about what's going on next week. I'm thinking about next year, 3 years out, 5 years out. I started thinking about my business when I started it.
Yeah. And that's great advice. You think about selling your business every 90 days. Even if you're 60 days in or 90 days in, what are you going to do? The decisions you make today can impact the transaction, even if it's years down the road. So,
And if you put yourself in the buyer's shoes, it's like, if I were them, what would I be asking?
yeah,
And if you really know the industry and your business, you can ask those hard questions as to, what are the things that are non-ideal, are risks to the business? How can I run a better business?
yeah, yeah. It's just about improving, getting better, right? Not
Yeah,
resting on your laurels.
yeah, exactly.
Well, Ralph, thank you so much for being here on the Power Exit podcast today. It's been a pleasure to know you and be a part of our professional lives together. And I'm looking forward to hopefully coming down there and letting you beat me in golf sometime. Uh,
You're always welcome. Just let me know.
awesome. Thanks so much, Ralph.
No problem. Have a great day.